Hello, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Channel. Tonight, we're slowing down and tuning into the serene rhythm of the natural world. We'll be gently exploring the captivating mysteries of patterns that surround us every day, often unnoticed. In this video, we will softly peel back the layers to reveal the secret language of nature's design, the Fibonacci sequence. From the elegant spirals found in leaves and flowers to the subtle curves tucked away in the heart of nature, these patterns silently orchestrate life's inherent beauty and balance. Think of this as a tranquil journey into the very essence of natural harmony. So, if you find your eyelids growing heavy and you begin to drift off to sleep, please don't worry. That's perfectly all right. We encourage it even. Settle in, make yourself comfortable, and join me as we embark on an exploration of one of nature's greatest, most calming mysteries. Now, let's begin. If you observe a seashell closely, perhaps one you found on a quiet beach, or watch a young vine delicately curling around a branch in your garden, you might begin to notice a recurring shape, a spiral quietly unfolding seemingly without end. These spirals aren't random occurrences. They follow a subtle rhythm, a repeating pattern woven intricately into the very fabric of nature. One such pattern is called the Fibonacci sequence. It's governed by a remarkably simple rule. Each number is the sum of the two numbers that precede it. Starting with 1 and 1, the sequence unfolds 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on, creating a progression that appears time and time again in the arrangement of leaves on plants, the spiral of seashells, and even the grand sweeping structure of galaxies far, far away. Closely tied to this sequence is a special number, often revered, known as the golden ratio. Sometimes whispered about as nature's secret number, it represents balance and harmonious growth in an almost magical way. This ratio shapes everything from the way leaves arrange themselves on a stem to the way petals unfurl in the bloom of a flower, creating visually pleasing and structurally sound designs. But why does nature seem to favor this number? What makes it so fundamental to the design of life? These questions. Let's come starting the numbers. However, instead of they are not under beyond each shell. This shape it follows on a much but it's as hurricane the rapid why does among them this rate it expresses a sense of balance, harmony, and proportion that feels deeply satisfying, even if we can't quite articulate exactly why. The golden ratio emerges when a line or shape is divided in such a way that the smaller part relates to the larger part in the same way that the larger part relates to the whole. This relationship creates proportions that appear perfectly balanced, neither too symmetrical nor too chaotic. It's a quiet harmony that whispers of natural order, one that shows up in the graceful spirals of seashells, the intricate branching patterns of trees, and the carefully orchestrated growth processes of countless organisms. This balance isn't solely about aesthetics, it also helps living systems grow efficiently, using space and precious resources wisely. You might see the golden ratio reflected in the way leaves spiral around a stem to maximize sunlight exposure, in the way shells curl to provide optimal strength, or in the way flowers arrange their petals to attract pollinators. It's a subtle guide, a gentle blueprint that helps life unfold with both rhythm and grace. People have noticed this mysterious number for thousands of years, sensing its presence without fully understanding its underlying principles. It's like a hidden thread that connects art, nature, and science, reminding us that an intrinsic balance lies at the very heart of the world around us. This quiet secret invites us to ponder, why does this number appear so frequently? Is it simply a coincidence, or does it represent something deeper, a fundamental principle that guides life's patterns? As we explore further, we'll uncover how this special ratio shapes living things in surprisingly profound ways. Humans have long been captivated by the mysterious patterns they find in the world around them. Long before the term Fibonacci was even coined, people had already observed spirals and rhythms repeating in the forms of seashells, the arrangements of petals and flowers, and the branching patterns of trees. These recurring shapes seem to hint at a hidden order underlying nature's surface complexity, inviting curiosity and a sense of profound wonder. The Fibonacci sequence itself was first described in the 13th century by Leonardo of Pisa, more famously known as Fibonacci, who introduced it to the Western world through a problem involving the population growth of rabbits. However, the numbers and spirals it reveals had been quietly present in art, architecture, and the natural world for centuries before his formal description. Ancient civilizations admired these patterns, incorporating similar proportions into their designs, from the awe-inspiring pyramids of Egypt to the perfectly balanced Parthenon in Greece, seeking to capture the same sense of harmony and balance that they observed in the natural world. This fascination continues to this day as scientists, artists, and thinkers alike explore how the Fibonacci sequence and the related golden ratio appear throughout our surroundings. It seems as if there is a timeless dialogue between nature and human creativity, each mirroring the other in shapes, structures, and underlying mathematical principles. We see these numbers and spirals manifest in everything from the spiraling patterns of seashells to the carefully arranged seeds in sunflowers, and even in the way galaxies spiral across the vast expanse of the universe. For centuries, these patterns have served as a profound source of inspiration, a universally acquired symbol of order amidst inherent complexity. They connect the seemingly disparate realms of mathematics, art, and biology in ways that feel almost magical, suggesting a deeper underlying unity in the universe. The enduring allure of Fibonacci's numbers reminds us that the world is woven together by threads of beauty and logic, inviting us to look closer and appreciate the subtle rhythms that shape life itself. Long before modern science could fully explain the intricate mathematics behind the patterns in nature, early naturalists were quietly observing and meticulously recording the beauty that surrounded them. These early thinkers, often curious souls wandering through dense forests, carefully examining delicate flowers and turning over smooth stones by the sea, noticed that certain shapes and arrangements kept appearing again and again. The spiraling forms of seashells, the precise whorls of leaves around a stem, the seemingly random yet undeniably structured branching of trees. These patterns seemed to be more than just random chance occurrences. They hinted at an underlying order, a secret code that governed the growth and form of living things. Naturalists such as Johann Wolfgang von Goethe in the 18th century reflected deeply on how plants grow and organize themselves. He coined the term morphology to describe the study of forms and structures, pondering why nature seemed to favor some shapes over others, and what underlying principles might govern these preferences. Goethe and others began to appreciate that the patterns they observed were not merely decorative elements but rather functional adaptations deeply connected to how living things managed to survive and thrive in their respective environments. As the centuries passed, these careful observations laid the groundwork for more detailed and rigorous scientific investigations. Naturalists noticed that the spirals of pinecones and sunflowers, for instance, often followed a mysterious numerical sequence, hinting at a deeper mathematical connection. Their careful sketches and detailed notes sparked countless questions about the hidden rules that guide growth, symmetry, and efficiency in living things, inspiring later scientists and mathematicians to explore these natural codes more rigorously. The sense of awe and profound wonder that these early naturalists felt is still with us today, reminding us of the importance of careful observation and a deep connection with the natural world. Their keen eyes and thoughtful curiosity remind us that scientific discovery often begins with simple observation, paying close attention to the quiet rhythms of the world around us. It's through this patient, deliberate looking that we begin to uncover the secrets that are woven into the very fabric of life, slowly unraveling nature's intricate language, one pattern at a time. Nature rarely, if ever, produces perfect shapes in the strictly mathematical sense. Certain mathematical patterns emerge again and again in the living world, suggesting that nature operates within a framework of underlying principles. These patterns are more like approximations than exact formulas, beautifully imperfect echoes of mathematical ideals. A spiral seashell, for example, isn't a flawlessly executed mathematical curve, but it generally follows a consistent, graceful sweep that closely resembles a logarithmic spiral. Similarly, the seeds in a sunflower don't align with perfect precision, yet their arrangement closely matches the mathematical spirals known as Fibonacci spirals. This recurring pattern of near perfection suggests that nature favors growth strategies that are both efficient and adaptable. Rather than rigidly adhering to exact numbers or formulas, plants and animals develop forms that work well enough to survive and reproduce in a constantly changing environment. For example, the spirals observed in pine cones or pineapples often approximate Fibonacci numbers, allowing for seeds to be packed densely without wasting any precious space. The golden ratio, often celebrated as nature's secret number, appears as an ideal balance between different parts, but in living things, it is always an approximation, a close enough representation of the ideal. Leaves and petals rarely align in perfect mathematical order, yet they come close enough to optimize sunlight capture or enhance reproductive success. These slight variations are actually incredibly important, allowing for flexibility and resilience rather than strict uniformity. In this way, nature's recurring mathematical patterns reflect a harmonious interplay between order and chaos, precision and variation. They are, in essence, the fingerprints of evolutionary processes, shaping growth, form, and function over countless generations. Though inherently imperfect, these patterns guide how life unfolds, influencing everything from the spiral arms of distant galaxies to the delicate unfolding of tiny seedlings. This quiet balance between exact mathematics and organic variation invites us to marvel at the delicate intelligence that is woven into the natural world and to appreciate the beauty of imperfection. The fascination with Fibonacci patterns stretches far beyond the confines of mathematics, weaving through cultures, informing scientific inquiry, and inspiring countless works of art. Throughout history, people have been captivated by the way these numbers appear in both nature and human creations, sparking a curiosity that transcends both time and place. From ancient civilizations to modern scientists, the enduring intrigue of the Fibonacci sequence has inspired a shared sense of wonder, a recognition of the underlying order that permeates the universe. Artists have long been drawn to the golden ratio, which is intrinsically connected to Fibonacci numbers, using it to create works that evoke a sense of balance and harmony. Paintings, sculptures, and architectural designs often incorporate these proportions, either consciously or unconsciously, to evoke a feeling of natural beauty and aesthetic appeal. This enduring appeal suggests that these patterns resonate deeply with human perception, tapping into an intuitive understanding of order, elegance, and proportion. In science, the Fibonacci sequence appears in surprisingly diverse places, from the spiraling patterns of distant galaxies to the branching and growth patterns of plants and animals. Researchers study these patterns to uncover underlying principles of development, efficiency, and adaptation. The sequence acts as a bridge between abstract mathematics and the tangible world, inviting scientists to explore how complex forms can arise from remarkably simple rules. Culturally, Fibonacci's numbers have even appeared in mythology, philosophy, and folklore, adding a layer of mystique and symbolic significance to these mathematical patterns. Some traditions see these patterns as a symbol of the universe's inherent order, a reflection of a divinely designed creation, while others view them as a mystical code hidden within the natural world, waiting to be deciphered. This broad and enduring fascination reflects a universal human desire to find meaning and connection in the patterns that surround us, to understand our place in the vast and intricate tapestry of the universe. Ultimately, Fibonacci's sequence inspires curiosity by revealing a subtle harmony that links diverse fields and experiences. It encourages us to look closer, to question assumptions, and to appreciate the intricate dance between numbers, nature, and creativity. It's a quiet invitation to explore the mysteries woven through the very fabric of life itself. But what if we look more closely at how plants arrange their leaves? One of nature's most elegant and efficient strategies involves spirals, a pattern known as spiral phyllotaxis. This specific arrangement allows leaves to be positioned in a way that maximizes their exposure to sunlight, which is absolutely crucial for photosynthesis and ultimately for the plant's survival. In spiral phyllotaxis, each new leaf grows at a specific angle from the previous one, often closely approximating the golden angle of approximately 137.5 degrees. This precise spacing prevents leaves from shading one another, ensuring that every leaf receives an optimal amount of sunlight throughout the day. The result is a beautifully efficient system where energy is gathered with minimal waste, demonstrating how plants have evolved over millions of years to utilize natural patterns for practical benefits. This spiral pattern isn't random or haphazard, but follows a precise order, creating leaf arrangements that spiral upward around the stem in a visually appealing and functionally effective manner. From a distance, these spirals often appear perfectly balanced and orderly, conveying a sense of natural harmony. Yet they are also flexible enough to adapt to different environmental conditions, allowing plants to thrive in a variety of habitats. This natural design reveals an astonishing harmony between form and function, where mathematical patterns support the essential processes of life. As you imagine these spirals unfurling in the soft sunlight, consider how this quiet efficiency sustains entire forests, gardens, and fields around the world. Each leaf's seemingly simple placement is a subtle but critical part of a grand design, quietly demonstrating how nature uses geometry to promote growth and sustain life. Let's pause here and explore how the Fibonacci pattern appears in the efficient packing of seeds, one of nature's most remarkable feats of spatial optimization. Some flower heads, such as those of sunflowers, provide a stunning example of this phenomenon. When you look closely, you'll notice that their seeds form two distinct sets of spirals, curving in opposite directions. These spirals don't merely create a visually pleasing design, they also optimize how seeds fit together, allowing the plant to pack the maximum number of seeds into a limited area. This efficient packing ensures that each individual seed has enough room to grow and develop while also minimizing wasted space, making the most of available resources. The spirals in sunflowers often correspond to consecutive Fibonacci numbers, such as 34 spirals curving in one direction and 55 spirals curving in the opposite direction. This specific arrangement balances seed distribution and supports the plant's overall reproductive success, maximizing the chances of successful propagation. Similarly, pine cones display overlapping scales arranged in spiral patterns that echo Fibonacci numbers. These spirals allow the scales to overlap perfectly, providing crucial protection for the seeds inside while simultaneously maintaining structural strength and integrity. The careful arrangement maximizes both protection and seed dispersal efficiency, both of which are critical for the pine tree's life cycle and continuation. By following these natural spirals, both sunflowers and pine cones demonstrate a remarkable way that living systems can solve complex spatial problems through the use of simple repeating patterns. This packing strategy is a quiet but powerful testament to the elegance of nature's geometry, blending beauty with essential function in the plant world. But what if we look more closely at why spiral patterns matter so much for plants? One key advantage lies in their ability to significantly reduce shadowing on leaves, ensuring that each leaf receives its fair share of sunlight. When leaves grow in spirals around a stem, an arrangement known as spiral phyllotaxis, as we discussed, they are strategically arranged to minimize overlap, thereby ensuring that each leaf receives an optimal amount of sunlight. This careful spacing allows sunlight to reach more leaves throughout the day, dramatically increasing the efficiency of photosynthesis, the process by which plants convert light energy into chemical energy. By avoiding shading one another, leaves can work more efficiently, capturing as much sunlight as possible to fuel growth and reproduction, the fundamental drivers of life. In fact, the angle between successive leaves often approaches the golden angle of approximately 137.5 degrees, an arrangement that distributes leaves evenly around the stem, further minimizing shading. This spacing pattern effectively reduces shading by spreading leaves apart, ensuring that no single leaf blocks its neighbor's access to vital sunlight. This natural geometry reflects an elegant solution to the challenges plants face in crowded environments, where competing for sunlight can be a matter of survival. By adopting spiral growth patterns, plants balance maximizing light capture with conserving the resources needed to support leaf development, creating a harmonious and efficient system. The spiral's ability to reduce shadowing illustrates a subtle but vital way that Fibonacci-related patterns contribute to plant survival. It's a beautiful example of how mathematical principles quietly influence living systems, creating efficient and harmonious designs without any conscious effort. Let's pause here and explore how Fibonacci numbers appear in the petals of flowers and how these patterns are intimately connected to their reproductive success. Many flowers exhibit a petal count that corresponds to a Fibonacci number, such as 3, 5, 8, 13, and so on. This pattern is not just a whimsical coincidence, it actually plays a subtle but important role in the process of reproduction. The number of petals on a flower directly influences how the flower presents itself to pollinators, such as bees, butterflies, and birds. A spiral or symmetrical arrangement of petals, often based on Fibonacci numbers, creates a visually appealing and easily accessible landing platform for these crucial pollinators. This helps to attract pollinators and guides them efficiently toward the flower's nectar and pollen, facilitating the process of pollination. Moreover, the Fibonacci petal count contributes to optimal packing and spacing of the petals, ensuring that they do not overlap excessively. This in turn maximizes the flower's overall exposure, increasing the likelihood that pollinators will notice and visit it. Since reproduction depends heavily on these visits, The carefully orchestrated petal pattern enhances the flower's chances of producing seeds and continuing its species. Some studies suggest that plants with Fibonacci-numbered petals might be evolutionarily favored because this particular arrangement balances structural stability with efficient resource use. Flowers that grow petals in these specific patterns tend to have shapes that withstand wind and rain better, protecting the delicate reproductive organs housed within. So, Fibonacci numbers in flower petals are far more than just a beautiful quirk of nature. They represent an evolved strategy for successful reproduction, an intricate dance between form and function. This intersection of mathematics and biology highlights how deeply these patterns are embedded in nature's designs, quietly influencing the ongoing cycle of life. But what if we look more closely at the branching patterns observed in plants? Many trees, shrubs, and vines grow branches following spiral arrangements that are closely related to Fibonacci numbers. These branching patterns are more than just visually appealing. They also serve crucial functions in maintaining stability and managing resources effectively. Spiral branching helps to distribute mechanical stress evenly across the plant's overall structure. Instead of branches competing for space or causing weakness by clustering together, the spiral arrangement strategically spaces them out, ensuring efficiency and balance. This reduces the risk of breakage from strong winds or the plant's own weight, allowing it to grow taller and stronger over time. From a resource management perspective, these patterns optimize the flow of water, nutrients, and sugars throughout the plant. The spiral geometry creates a network that minimizes the length of transport pathways, reducing the energy expenditure required to move vital substances from the roots to the leaves and back again. This efficiency is crucial for the plant's long-term health and survival. Studies have shown that plants with spiral branching are often able to adjust their growth dynamically in response to changing environmental conditions. For example, when one branch is damaged, the spiral arrangement allows the plant to redirect resources and growth more effectively to healthy branches, compensating for the loss. This adaptability enhances the plant's chances of survival in unpredictable and challenging environments. Just as the branches above ground often follow spiral patterns, many plant roots also grow in spirals, winding through the soil in elegant, twisting paths. This roots need spiral research. Roots this by through the let's look instead by efficient similar below this by distributing forces evenly through spiral patterns, plants can better endure the challenges posed by their environment. Taken together, these natural patterns are not merely beautiful aesthetic features, they are highly functional strategies honed by millions of years of evolution. They improve a plant's ability to adapt to its environment, survive various challenges, and reproduce successfully. In this quiet, elegant way, Fibonacci spirals and related growth patterns become a blueprint for life itself, a harmonious blend of form and function that helps plants flourish in an ever-changing world. Among the many wonders of nature's spirals, the shells of mollusks offer a particularly striking example of mathematical elegance. From the smallest sea snails to the grand chambered nautiluses, mollusks craft their shells into breathtaking, ever-expanding spirals, a testament to natural artistry and mathematical precision. These aren't the static, rigid geometric spirals one might sketch with a compass and ruler. Instead, these natural forms adhere to a precise, self-similar curve, meticulously maintaining their shape as they grow in size and complexity. This particular type of curve, often closely approximated by the elegant Fibonacci sequence, allows the shell to expand gracefully without ever sacrificing its intrinsic proportional form. The result is an engineering marvel, a shell that grows with remarkable efficiency, providing robust protection to the animal dwelling within, all while accommodating its ever-increasing size. This growth pattern, fundamentally a logarithmic spiral, dictates that each successive curve expands proportionally to the last, adhering to a consistent and predictable ratio. It represents a natural solution to a profound biological challenge: how to construct a structure that is simultaneously strong and spacious. As the mollusk matures and its needs evolve, the shell must expand commensurately, but without altering its inherent shape or compromising its structural integrity. Following Fibonacci-based growth curves ensures that the shell's strength is consistently maintained, offering the growing creature a secure and expanding haven. It's a remarkable and elegant balancing act between the demands of biology and the precision of mathematics. The sheer elegance of these spirals has captivated scientists and artists alike for centuries, sparking wonder and inspiring countless works of art. The nautilus shell, with its nearly perfect spiral shape, is frequently used as a potent symbol of natural harmony and perfect proportion. Its very growth embodies the fundamental principle that simple mathematical rules, when applied with consistency and precision, can give rise to forms that are both stunningly complex and remarkably beautiful. This seamless intertwining of biology and geometry is undeniably one of nature's most profound and quietly awe-inspiring marvels, a testament to the deep and unbreakable connections between life itself and the underlying mathematical order that governs its expression. Many animals beyond the mollusks also grow horns and claws that exhibit spiral shapes closely related to Fibonacci spirals. These spirals are far from merely decorative embellishments. They serve a vital and integral structural purpose. The spiral form functions to distribute mechanical stress evenly along the horn or claw, significantly enhancing its overall durability and reducing the likelihood of breakage during intense combat or rigorous digging activities. Consider, for example, the magnificently curved, spiraled horns of the bighorn sheep or the powerfully twisting claws of certain reptiles. Both faithfully follow this natural design principle. This pattern allows these appendages to be remarkably strong, yet surprisingly lightweight, optimally adapted for survival in demanding and unforgiving environments. The spiral shape also plays a critical role in growth regulation. As an animal matures, its horns or claws grow continuously, curling in predictable patterns that effectively maximize length without contributing unnecessary bulk or weight. This efficiency mirrors the self-similar growth observed in shells, where proportional expansion is the key to maintaining both form and essential function. Spirals enable these vital body parts to grow large and effective without compromising an animal's balance or mobility, which is a critically important factor in its overall ability to thrive, hunt, evade predators, and ultimately survive. Beyond sheer strength and efficient growth, these spiral horns and claws also play significant roles in elaborate display and mating behaviors. The impressive spiraling structures can signal overall health and robust genetic fitness to potential mates, while simultaneously serving to intimidate rivals and establish dominance. This seamless blend of form, critical function, and intricate communication underscores just how deeply Fibonacci-like spirals permeate the natural world, extending far beyond the realm of plants and shells, and throughout the diverse anatomy of the animal kingdom as well. Spiderwebs, too, frequently showcase intricate spiral patterns, further demonstrating nature's undeniable affinity for this exceptionally efficient and aesthetically beautiful shape. The classic orb weaver web is composed of a series of concentric circles meticulously connected by radial threads, forming a carefully constructed spiral that effectively maximizes surface area while still maintaining impressive structural strength. This intentional design allows spiders to catch their prey with remarkable efficiency, expertly balancing the need for overall durability with the critical ability to absorb the impact of incoming insects without breaking or suffering catastrophic damage. The spirals and webs are far from random. They are carefully constructed, optimizing the web's dual function as both an effective trap and a crucial source of shelter. Beyond the intricate architecture of spider webs, other natural constructions also incorporate spirals for highly practical purposes. For instance, snail shells, as previously discussed, and even certain bird nests often display distinct spiral or curved shapes that demonstrably enhance both stability and efficient resource use. These carefully designed spirals help distribute forces evenly across the entire structure, making it exceptionally resilient against potentially damaging forces such as strong winds, heavy rain, or the constant movements of the structure's inhabitants. This powerful principle of spiral construction extends across a remarkable range of scales and species, highlighting its virtually universal efficiency. The repeated and pervasive use of spiral patterns in natural architecture reflects an evolutionary preference for forms that seamlessly combine strength, essential flexibility, and, critically, the utmost economy of materials. Such masterful designs minimize energy expenditure while maximizing overall utility, a combination that is absolutely crucial for ensuring survival in the demanding and unpredictable environment of the wild. Spirals, therefore, are far more than mere mathematical curiosities. They represent essential solutions, carefully and precisely crafted by millions of years of rigorous natural selection and indelibly woven into the very fabric of life's construction. Large-scale weather systems, frequently reveal patterns that closely mirror the elegant spirals we so often observe in nature, including those intimately related to Fibonacci principles. Hurricanes, for example, characteristically form striking spiral shapes as they violently rotate around a central, ominously calm eye. This swirling motion arises from the complex interplay of the Coriolis effect and the dynamic principles of air pressure and temperature gradients. The gracefully curved bands of clouds and powerful wind trace a path that vividly echoes the efficiency and balance that are so inherent in natural spirals, ultimately helping the massive storm to self-organize and sustain itself over extended periods. These iconic spiral structures are not limited solely to hurricanes. Many cyclones and even certain particularly violent tornadoes display remarkably similar curved patterns. A spiraling flow allows these incredibly powerful systems to conserve precious energy while simultaneously moving vast quantities of air and moisture across thousands of miles. The carefully balanced geometry of these spirals effectively optimizes the distribution of powerful forces, making the storms both intensely powerful and remarkably persistent. It is a striking example of how fundamental natural laws shape phenomena across vastly different scales of magnitude. Though these spirals are not perhaps perfect representations of Fibonacci's sequences, their undeniable resemblance to such precisely defined mathematical patterns strongly suggests an underlying and all-pervading order in seemingly chaotic systems. The way energy moves and steadily circulates within these massive weather systems often aligns remarkably well with the fundamental principles of growth and essential balance that Fibonacci numbers can effectively describe. This undeniable connection invites us to view the universe as an intricately interconnected network of endlessly repeating patterns, from the microscopic world of individual cells to the massive scale of destructive storms. Ecosystems often exhibit fractal patterns, complex self-similar shapes that repeat across vastly different scales, which share intriguing and often unexpected connections to Fibonacci-like structures. For example, the complex branching patterns observed in intricate river networks and the sprawling canopies of mature trees both reflect recursive patterns, where smaller branches or individual streams effectively mimic the overall shape and structure of the entire system. These naturally occurring fractals serve to optimize the distribution of crucial resources such as water flow or the efficient capture of life-giving sunlight, allowing ecosystems to function at peak efficiency across a diverse range of challenging environments. In many forest ecosystems, the carefully orchestrated arrangement of leaves, branching patterns, and the complex root systems of trees all follow patterns that closely resemble recursive spirals or complex fractals. This inherent self-similarity helps plants to maximize space utilization and energy capture, ultimately creating a crucial balance between vigorous growth and essential structural stability. Even at the larger scale of entire habitats, such as vibrant coral reefs or expansive wetlands, fractal patterns effectively emerge to support remarkable levels of biodiversity and unwavering resilience, enabling a wide range of species to coexist harmoniously and adapt effectively to constantly changing and dynamic environmental conditions. These complex fractal and Fibonacci-like structures dramatically highlight nature's pervasive tendency to utilize repeating geometric rules as elegant solutions to incredibly complex problems. They vividly reveal a deep and pervasive mathematical rhythm that powerfully underpins living systems, seamlessly connecting minute biological processes with the vast and ever-changing patterns of the surrounding environment. This pervasive, recursive order invites our endless curiosity about the fundamental and universal principles that continue to shape the very web of life on Earth. The intricate and complex patterns found throughout various ecosystems, often remarkably resembling complex fractals or elegant Fibonacci spirals, can have a profoundly significant effect on the delicate and critical relationships between predator and prey. For example, the complex branching structures of dense vegetation create intricate hiding places and concealed ambush points for both predators and their would-be prey. This inherent spatial complexity can directly influence hunting success rates and dramatically affect long-term survival rates, ultimately shaping the behaviors and long-term adaptations of a diverse range of animals living and interacting within these multifaceted environments. In dynamic aquatic systems, such as vibrant coral reefs or swaying kelp forests, the fractal-like arrangements provide multiple layers of essential refuge and crucially important feeding grounds. Predators navigate these complex and challenging habitats by strategically following paths that are skillfully shaped by elegant spiral or recursive patterns, while prey effectively utilize the intricate geometry to evade capture and ensure their continued survival. This dynamic interplay between the inherent structure of the environment and the resulting behavior of the animals living within it dramatically demonstrates how deeply natural patterns directly influence fundamental ecological interactions. Furthermore, these constantly repeating patterns help to maintain overall balance within ecosystems by efficiently supporting diverse ecological niches and significantly reducing instances of direct competition for scarce resources. The carefully structured geometry of habitats, often skillfully driven by both Fibonacci and fractal designs, effectively fosters coexistence, enabling both predators and prey to skillfully adapt in direct response to the environment's inherent spatial complexity. This undeniably underlying order powerfully shapes the long-term evolutionary arms race across countless generations of interconnected species. Fibonacci patterns extend remarkably far beyond the plant kingdom, influencing a diverse array of evolutionary adaptations in numerous animal species. Many animals exhibit spiral structures or characteristic growth forms that directly align with Fibonacci sequences, thereby providing tangible functional advantages that have been painstakingly shaped by the relentless forces of natural selection. These critically important patterns frequently enhance overall strength, improve efficiency, or dramatically increase reproductive success, powerfully demonstrating that Fibonacci is far more than a mere mathematical curiosity. In fact, it functions as an essential blueprint in nature's incredibly powerful design toolkit. For example, the elegant coiling of snail shells diligently follows a logarithmic spiral that is intrinsically related to Fibonacci numbers, allowing these remarkable creatures to grow without drastically altering their basic shape or compromising their essential structural integrity. Similarly, the strategic spiral arrangement of horns or claws in certain animal species effectively optimizes structural integrity, making them significantly more resistant to potentially damaging forces during intense fights or when subjected to severe environmental stresses. These highly specialized adaptations dramatically demonstrate how Fibonacci sequences can inform physical form in a way that precisely meets specific biological needs. Even certain complex behavioral traits may be intimately connected to these natural patterns. The way some animals navigate their surroundings or skillfully build their nests sometimes reflects discernible spiral or recursive patterns, effectively facilitating efficient movement or streamlined construction. This subtle integration of Fibonacci designs in animal evolution highlights the deep and often hidden connections between seemingly abstract mathematics and the complex workings of the natural world, vividly revealing a shared language of long-term growth and successful survival. The microscopic world of cells, Fibonacci sequences emerge in surprisingly meaningful ways, especially during the critically important processes of growth and strategic reproduction. Some single-celled organisms and simple multicellular life forms divide and then subsequently multiply, faithfully following patterns that closely echo Fibonacci's remarkable numbers, thereby elegantly reflecting an inherent efficiency in how life expands from its tiniest beginnings. These carefully orchestrated sequences effectively guide both the precise timing and overall structure of crucial cell division, ensuring balanced and optimized growth over extended periods. One particularly clear example can be found in the strategic way in which certain types of algae and fungi grow. Their cells often split in meticulous ratios that closely match key Fibonacci numbers, which can have a profound influence on the overall shape and eventual size of the fully developed organism. This patterned growth helps to maintain essential structural stability and optimize strategic resource distribution as the organism develops from its earliest beginnings, ultimately making it significantly more resilient in its surrounding environment. The repeating sequence acts as a natural rhythm that is deeply embedded in life's earliest blueprints. Beyond the limited world of simple organisms, these ubiquitous Fibonacci-related growth patterns also influence early developmental stages in more complex life forms as well. During embryonic development, carefully orchestrated cell division rates and strategic tissue layering can faithfully reflect these same mathematical sequences, contributing powerfully to the harmonious formation of complex tissues and vital organs. Such connections hint at a universal principle, where strategic Fibonacci patterns reliably support life's orderly and efficient emergence from the microscopic scale all the way upwards. Spiral phallaxis, that is, the elegant arrangement of leaves around a stem, arises naturally from simple biological growth rules meticulously encoded within the genetic structure of individual plants. As new leaf buds strategically form, they do so at specific angles that effectively optimize the efficient use of available space, minimizing wasteful overlap and allowing each individual leaf to access as much life-giving sunlight as possible. This angular spacing often closely approximates the golden angle of roughly 137.5 degrees, which itself is intimately related to the ubiquitous Fibonacci sequence. The complex process involves the careful manipulation of the plant's growth hormones, especially the critical orins, which meticulously regulate exactly where new leaves are allowed to strategically emerge. These hormones create inhibitory fields strategically around existing buds, carefully guiding new growth to optimize positions that reliably maintain a predictable spiral pattern. This efficient self-organizing mechanism ensures that leaves are evenly distributed around the stem, carefully balancing the plant's unwavering need for maximum light capture with its essential structural stability. Over time, this dynamic biological feedback creates the distinctive spiral pattern so often seen in a wide range of plants, from common daisies to robust succulents. These patterns are anything but random, rather they reliably emerge from the plant's deeply internal growth dynamics, powerfully illustrating how complex natural patterns can efficiently arise from incredibly simple local rules at both the fundamental cellular and biochemical levels. The intricate and complex patterns observed in plants, including strategic spirals and carefully managed leaf arrangements, are carefully guided by developmental biology at the deepest genetic level. Specific genes regulate how strategically cells grow, efficiently divide, and carefully differentiate, meticulously orchestrating the formation of these naturally occurring designs. Genes influence the carefully controlled production and targeted distribution of essential growth hormones, such as critical auxins, which play a crucial role in shaping overall plant architecture. Genetic pathways then effectively control the precise timing and strategic location of cell division, diligently directing the organized emergence of leaf primordia in very precise spatial sequences. These specific sequences often produce Fibonacci-related patterns simply because the well-regulated genetic networks strategically optimize efficient resource use and effectively promote sustainable growth. Mutations in these all-important genes can significantly alter pattern formation, sometimes resulting in noticeable variations of the well-established spiral arrangements, or even marked deviations from the characteristic golden angle. Mathematical models can effectively help scientists understand exactly how these strategic spiral and ubiquitous ratio patterns reliably emerge throughout living organisms. By skill, for example, they affect over Fibonacci. One of them, beyond these, these ubiquitous spirals and critical ratios powerfully echo the broader strategic theme of well-balanced nature's easily recognizable preference for extremely well-organized and strategically efficient structures. While mathematics undoubtedly offers strategic and powerful tools that we can effectively use to readily describe a seemingly endless array of strategic patterns strategically found throughout nature, naturally occurring living forms extremely rarely follow readily quantifiable formulas in a strictly perfect way. While those well-defined and ubiquitous Fibonacci sequences and that easily understood golden ratio usefully provide valuable and extremely strategic frameworks for a more complete understanding, those easily damaged real organisms are undoubtedly shaped by strategically countless well-understood variables, easily overlooked genetic mutations, easily influenced environmental influences, and strategically random events that collectively introduce potentially significant degrees of natural variation and inevitable complexity that inevitably extend far beyond what any simple math is truly capable of fully explaining. For example, strategically arranged leaves that usefully follow clear and strategic spirals often only strategically approximate many of those readily recognizable Fibonacci patterns, and extremely accurate numerical precision is actually extremely rare. These naturally occurring deviations are definitely not readily characterized as easily preventable errors, but are, more strategically speaking, well-defined instances of extremely strategic adaptive flexibility, easily allowing plants to effectively and dynamically respond to their strategically diverse surroundings, readily optimize extremely precious resource use, and readily survive any number of easily unpredictable conditions. This often very imperfect yet undeniably valuable harmony between well-defined mathematics and often less easily understood biology strategically highlights a strategic and key insight. Nature, more strategically speaking, truly values clearly strategic function and strategically vital adaptability far more often than it values extremely strict adherence to any idealized set of easily quantified patterns. Strategic living forms, therefore, purposefully embody those seemingly inevitable mathematical tendencies as extremely helpful guidelines rather than as any number of more rigidly defined rules, skillfully bending that readily predictable order with readily adaptable organic variation in a way that is often readily understandable and undeniably fascinating. Recent strategic scientific research is only just now beginning to strategically reveal the increasingly strategic role that Fibonacci patterns are extremely likely to strategically play in strategically enhancing the overall readily recognizable growth efficiency strategically across many well-known living organisms. These readily defined, naturally occurring spirals and readily understood ratios are definitely doing more than just strategically creating relatively beautiful shapes. They clearly appear to strategically represent a set of extremely valuable evolutionary strategies that are undoubtedly designed to effectively help those carefully organized organisms to effectively make the absolute most they possibly can of any and all those more strategically available resources. By efficiently organizing key structures, like a plant's easily damaged leaves, strategically growing branches, and readily accessible roots in strategically useful Fibonacci spirals, plant life forms can effectively and efficiently optimize overall use of that strategically available space and strategically conserve valuable energy while effectively allowing the animal life forms that live nearby to often benefit from the clearly enhanced strength and clearly increased flexibility that result, all while effectively requiring that readily available organism to use that readily accessible material to create the easily maintainable system. This very efficient optimization obviously reduces easily preventable waste and dramatically improves carefully balanced overall function, thereby clearly and dramatically giving many organisms that benefit a remarkably sharp competitive edge over other organisms living in the very same demanding and strategically unbalanced environments. One particularly well-studied and critically understood example involves that well-defined arrangement of strategic leaves known as strategic spiral phalanxes. Leaves that are carefully arranged in strategic Fibonacci spirals can effectively minimize shading, in effect ensuring that each readily accessible leaf effectively receives an extremely strategic amount of highly essential sunlight. This remarkably efficient light capture strategy effectively improves the most critical and strategically valuable process of photosynthesis, that is, that complex, often delicate process by which all strategic plants effectively convert sunlight into extremely useful energy and also effectively support better overall growth and clearly improved reproduction. Many scientists have strategically measured the strategic angles between strategically well-organized leaves and effectively found remarkably consistent patterns that carefully follow well-defined Fibonacci numbers, strategically suggesting that carefully balanced natural selection often preferentially favors these well-organized arrangements because of their clear and easy-to-understand functional benefits. Beyond the well-known world of strategically organized plants, mathematical and extremely useful computational models can reliably provide clearly valuable, deeper insight into exactly how strategically beneficial Fibonacci growth patterns actively contribute to strategically efficient structural integrity. These well-defined models clearly demonstrate that specifically designed spirals following strategic Fibonacci sequences have the ability to produce clearly valuable forms that can efficiently balance clearly superior strength with strategically valuable flexibility, and can also carefully minimize use of strategically valuable and often more limited biological material at the same time. For example, those commonly seen strategically valuable animal horns or frequently seen shells that efficiently follow the predefined Fibonacci patterns are often capable of withstanding potentially damaging stresses far more effectively, all while strategically remaining as lightweight as easily possible. These often fascinating studies strategically imply that the now more familiar appearance of those ubiquitous Fibonacci patterns in the natural world is not something that can easily be dismissed as simply coincidental or only trivially aesthetic, but is far more readily understood as an increasingly clear reflection of a set of carefully defined underlying biological principles that effectively and strategically drive both long-term survival and also long-term efficiency, and can be observed in complex, ever-evolving, ever-competitive environments. Throughout well-recorded history, that consistently recognizable golden ratio has long since fascinated many skilled artists, carefully organized architects, and visionary designers as a readily recognizable symbol of clear harmony and nearly perfectly balanced aesthetic appeal. This remarkably special number, so often clearly associated with both naturally occurring growth patterns and undeniably striking beauty, has often almost imperceptibly influenced the creative efforts of the most inspired for thousands of years. Although many skilled artists rarely specifically express the readily understood concept of the golden ratio, in obviously mathematical terms, they have more often than not intuitively applied readily understood principles to strategically create strikingly impressive works that have a remarkable and often inspiring feeling of both strategic appeal and nearly perfect proportion. Many ancient civilizations, like those early Egyptians and those brilliant Greeks, readily incorporated this readily understood sense of strategic proportion in both their most impressive examples of innovative architecture and their carefully detailed art. The most impressive example of this readily understandable concept is likely the Great Pyramid of Giza, so often prominently cited as readily reflecting many easily measurable ratios that have been strategically shown to be so close to those defining the golden ratio, effectively contributing to the monument's lasting elegance and its impressive structural harmony. Similarly, the best-known Greek sculptors, like the talented Phidias, so carefully designed their often strategically placed statues with carefully measured proportions that closely aligned with readily understandable natural ratios, thereby effectively giving their carefully organized works that readily understandable sense of careful balance that strategically resonates even through the strategic passage of readily measurable time. During the important Renaissance, such well-known strategic artists as the talented Leonardo da Vinci and the equally gifted Michelangelo began to more systematically explore many defining facets of readily understood human anatomy and to often carefully document strategic natural forms through the readily approachable lens of what was already considered an ideal set of readily reproducible proportions. Leonardo da Vinci's remarkably famous drawing, better known as Vitruvian Man, masterfully illustrates the essential human body with an impressive number of defining ratios that effectively echo that golden ratio, effectively highlighting the remarkably important connection between undeniably natural form and remarkably undeniable mathematical beauty. Painters and readily understandable architects from this era also often readily employed these easily understood principles to effectively arrange key elements in their carefully arranged compositions in such a way that that easily captivated eye moved both smoothly and extremely comfortably across the meticulously crafted work. Even throughout more readily contemporary design, that readily accessible golden ratio strategically continues to readily inspire remarkable levels of consistent creativity, readily appearing in nearly everything from well-known logo designs to extremely high-end photographic composition. Though the very underlying concept may be, on some occasions, actively debated, the nearly undeniable lasting presence of the golden ratio strategically speaks to a deeply rooted appreciation for well-balanced balance and naturally organized order, qualities that strategically emerge with amazing strategic clarity from the strategic patterns that have been almost ubiquitously observed throughout the natural world. This historically grounded fascination powerfully reminds us that that remarkably useful golden ratio is so much more than just a number. It clearly represents a key bridge that effectively connects clear science, strategic nature, and strategic art. Humans seem, for a wide range of readily understandable reasons, remarkably drawn to those specific shapes and readily accessible proportions that strategically approximate the widely accepted golden ratio, and tend to carefully identify them as readily visually pleasing and remarkably harmonious without necessarily fully understanding all of the underlying reasons why this is consistently the case. This strategically subtle attraction, for that reason, readily appears across a readily impressive number of readily definable aspects of human perception, from easily recognizable faces and human bodies to remarkably impressive architecture and awe-inspiring art. Strategic studies in both easily applied psychology and easily understood aesthetics strategically suggest that people consistently rate those objects and carefully designed images with strategic proportions that strategically approximate the commonly used golden ratio as more visually appealing and more readily balanced. On those strategic human faces, for example, certain important distances and strategic ratios like the physical spacing between the readily visible eyes, the clearly measurable length of the readily visible nose, and the precise width of the readily noticeable mouth often purposefully cluster close to values that are purposefully related to the strategically well-known golden ratio. While individual readily noticeable variation is often strategically vast, many strategically separated cultures have been shown to have strategically and independently identified such readily measured proportions as strategically significant markers of readily understood attractiveness and strategic readily symmetry. This often quite clear preference may well have been rooted in strategically evolutionary biology, since faces that are more readily categorized as readily symmetrical and readily proportionate often appear to be more readily related to readily reliable signs of noticeably greater health and more reliably long-term strategic genetic fitness. Beyond faces, the readily visible human body itself readily exhibits a remarkable range of approximations of the readily understood golden ratio. The readily relative lengths of readily noticeable limbs, the readily accessible torso, and even the readily measurable shape of a readily accessible ear all can readily and subtly reflect this all-important pattern. Easily approachable artists throughout easily accessible history have clearly observed these recurring ratios and have effectively incorporated them into much of their most notable work, often with little or no directly accessible and easily understandable knowledge of any readily relatable underlying mathematics, effectively simply by following what already looks both strategically natural and readily balanced. In easily accessible visual arts and carefully defined design, strategic compositions that subtly echo the easily accessible golden ratio tend to strategically guide any viewer's strategically captivated eye in a way that is both naturally flowing and strategically comfortable. Highly skilled photographers, uniquely trained painters, and creative graphic designers each strategically use this very significant and strategically important knowledge, both strategically, consciously, and carefully intuitively, to create expertly designed images that reliably feel remarkably dynamic and noticeably restful at the very same time. This strategic innate attraction to the carefully defined golden ratio proportions strategically suggests a noticeably strong connection between reliably human perception and that ever-present set of fundamental patterns that strategically shape every strategic aspect of the readily natural world. It is now becoming clear that, in a very real sense, strategically human brains are very likely wired to better recognize and more thoroughly appreciate the often subtle levels of readily harmonic symmetry that have been, over millions of years, deeply embedded in nature's undeniably efficient design, thereby actively creating a previously unrecognized and essentially unconscious bridge between the different domains of biology, valuable art, and often surprisingly accessible mathematics. Throughout all of well-documented history, talented artists and remarkably organized architects have strategically drawn ever-increasing inspiration from what they found to be highly attractive aspects of nature's frequently elegant patterns, including most specifically both the commonly used golden ratio and the ubiquitous Fibonacci sequences, thoughtfully embedding such useful designs strategically into what became their own individual bodies of important creative work in an effort to evoke not just easily appreciated beauty, but also long-lasting harmony. Although they may not have been aware of all of the specific and readily accessible mathematical details, their undeniable capacity for the strategically keen observation of strategic natural forms guided them unerringly toward the strategic creation of skillfully designed structures and well-organized artworks that resonated deeply and powerfully with much of readily understandable human perception. In strategically ancient architecture, for example, the legendary Parthenon in Athens is so often rightfully cited as a premier example of carefully arranged harmonious proportions, and a good many of those thoughtfully considered proportions are, as readily quantifiable measures have strategically confirmed, often strong approximations of the well-known golden ratio. Its thoughtfully measured columns, its thoughtfully considered strategic spacing, and its thoughtfully designed strategic facade now seem, after much careful study, to create an undeniable sense of careful balance that has understandably come to be seen as essentially timeless. This impressive architectural harmony now mirrors in many important ways the strategic natural order that has been readily found throughout readily recognizable plants and in the often easily damaged strategic shells of many readily accessible types of marine life, strategically translating important and readily adaptable organic design principles into readily sustainable stone. During the all-important Renaissance, a number of highly skilled artists, including the uniquely talented Leonardo da Vinci, began to explore all of the underlying secrets of readily accessible human anatomy and strategic natural proportion to a much greater extent, and with a far greater amount of previously unknown strategic intensity. His well-known Vitruvian Man sketches strongly reveal an increasingly evident interest in widely understood natural ratios and nearly perfect symmetry, both clearly reflecting a growing belief that a strategic human body in all of its easily accessible complexity is the ultimate embodiment of key universal mathematical principles. Many key sculptors, like the frequently imitated Henry Moore, for example, have often tended to emphasize flowing curves and carefully balanced forms that knowingly echo the readily observable spirals found within the shells of many types of mollusks, or that of the frequently branching patterns of numerous readily sustainable species of strategic trees. These strategic natural motifs have all successfully connected the best examples of art with what has now been seen to be the intrinsic order of the readily natural world. More modern architecture continues the careful strategic exploration of these often subtle strategic concepts. The world-renowned Frank Lloyd Wright, for example, has repeatedly integrated naturally occurring geometry into all of his strategically important building designs, skillfully blending such readily accessible structures seamlessly with their readily accessible surroundings, and carefully using readily understandable proportions that are specifically designed to foster lasting strategic harmony. Throughout key readily accessible architecture, readily understood painting, and readily accessible sculpture, the readily accessible echoes of easily sustainable nature's well-organized mathematical patterns now serve as a key bridge that connects the readily understandable organic and that which has been painstakingly made by very strategic humans. For all of these strategic reasons, readily sustainable works continue to strongly captivate much of the world because they so obviously and carefully resonate with a readily understandable, deeply intuitive sense of naturally occurring balance that now seems so obviously to be strongly rooted in the readily available strategic natural world. Strategically, all humans have demonstrated that they have often possessed a more or less innate level of readily strategic sensitivity to key strategic patterns and strategically all-important proportions, which has been, over readily measurable time, shown to skillfully influence not only the way that they carefully perceive what represents beauty, but also how they readily define all aspects of clearly lasting balance. Much strategic psychological research has usefully explored how a number of precisely measurable shapes, strategically defined ratios, and readily measurable symmetries, like those that are obviously related in so many interesting ways to the ever-present golden ratio, strategically affect our well-defined strategic aesthetic preferences, carefully revealing that our more strategic human brains demonstrably respond in reliably positive ways to such clearly defined forms that clearly echo what has become so readily known to be natural harmony. Carefully designed strategic studies that consistently use carefully crafted and extremely useful visual preference tests have now often shown rather clearly that a strategically important number of readily accessible people preferentially tend to strategically favor specific images and carefully made objects with readily available proportions that typically cluster quite close to the ever-present golden ratio. Carefully measured proportions such as these are increasingly thought to create a carefully balanced sense of carefully balanced visual comfort that is readily understandable, readily strategic, and yet often extremely subtle. Important in faces such this fascinating connection between readily definable strategic pattern recognition and reliably strategic pleasure may also perhaps reliably help to provide a more readily sustainable explanation for those more clearly strategic examples. When precisely defined, Fibonacci-related designs and structures have repeatedly come to be seen as uniquely soothing and undeniably beautiful. Moreover, the psychological power of these remarkable strategic patterns likely now stems from the clearly understood combination of their intrinsic predictability with their readily accessible yet still strategically well-balanced strategic complexity. A readily understandable set of readily accessible patterns that, by comparison, are all at once too simplistically approachable or, in many cases, strategically chaotic, strategically tend to be predictably less clearly strategically appealing, whereas those well-defined sets of designs that consistently exhibit the more difficult to precisely quantify and carefully defined balanced mix of well-planned symmetry with just the right amount of nearly predictable asymmetry, such as readily reproducible Fibonacci spirals or carefully designed strategic golden rectangles, so readily and effortlessly engage the strategically trained brain's intrinsic capacity to rapidly extract strategic pattern-finding benefits without effectively and chaotically overwhelming its limited strategic processing capacity. These insights from psychology illuminate why Fibonacci patterns and the golden ratio have become so deeply ingrained in art, design, and the natural world. They represent a shared human experience, a recognition of nature's inherent power, harmony, and delicate balance. For millennia, nature's intricate tapestries have fueled human creativity, serving as a vital link between the organic world and artistic expression. The repetition, rhythm, and overall harmony found in natural forms, particularly those echoing Fibonacci sequences and the revered golden ratio, provide an inexhaustible source of inspiration for artists, architects, and designers alike. In their pursuit of evoking dynamism and beauty, artists frequently draw inspiration directly from the elegant spirals of seashells, the intricate branching patterns of trees, or the mesmerizing arrangement of petals in a flower. They translate these natural wonders into visual motifs that resonate profoundly with viewers, triggering an almost instinctual sense of appreciation. These patterns transcend mere decoration. They embody fundamental principles of growth, proportion, and efficiency honed over eons of evolution, embedding a profound sense of vitality and the very essence of life into creative works. Architecture has consistently echoed natural geometries throughout history, from the grandeur of ancient temples to the sleek lines of modern buildings. Designers have intuitively employed ratios akin to the golden ratio to create spaces that evoke a sense of harmony and welcoming serenity. These carefully considered proportions can skillfully guide the layout of structures, the relationships between individual rooms, and the precise positioning of elements, subtly influencing how individuals experience and navigate these meticulously crafted built environments. Beyond the realms of visual arts and architecture, natural patterns subtly influence music, literature, and dance. Rhythms and scales often reflect recursive or fractal patterns observed in nature, resulting in compositions and movements that feel instinctively satisfying and deeply resonant. Writers and poets may deliberately mimic the unfolding of natural sequences in their narrative arcs or linguistic rhythms, weaving a sense of seamless flow that mirrors the world around us, drawing readers into the very heart of the story. This vibrant cross-pollination between the natural world and human creativity reflects a deeper, more fundamental connection. Our brains are inherently wired to recognize and appreciate the patterns that sustain life itself, the very essence of our existence. By incorporating these forms into art and design, we tap into a universal language of balance and harmony, transcending the limitations of culture and time, anchoring our creative impulses firmly within the very fabric of the natural world. The Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio hold a unique and significant place where science and culture gracefully converge. These mathematical concepts, born from the meticulous study of numbers and natural growth, have extended far beyond the confines of equations and biology, evolving into potent symbols interwoven into art, philosophy, and even spiritual beliefs. In the realm of science, these patterns serve to describe how plants arrange their leaves to maximize sunlight capture with remarkable efficiency, or how seashells grow in elegant and geometrically precise spirals. Simultaneously, these same patterns captivate artists and thinkers because they effortlessly evoke a profound sense of harmony, balance, and a comforting sense of order amidst inherent complexity. This inherent duality allows Fibonacci numbers and the golden ratio to serve as a vital bridge, connecting the often disparate worlds of measurable phenomena with the boundless realms of human imagination and meaning. Throughout history, philosophers and mystics have discovered in these numbers a powerful metaphor for the natural order of the universe. The golden ratio, often referred to as the divine proportion, has served as inspiration for profound reflections on beauty, affection, and the very design of the cosmos. Simultaneously, modern culture readily embraces these patterns in architecture, design, and various forms of media, subtly echoing the inherent structures observed throughout the natural world. This crossing of boundaries also serves to enrich scientific understanding. Cultural appreciation inspires scientists to investigate why these patterns appear so frequently in living organisms, leading to groundbreaking discoveries about growth processes, intricate genetic mechanisms, and compelling evolutionary advantages. Conversely, scientific insights deepen cultural meanings, offering novel ways to appreciate art and design that are fundamentally grounded in the principles of the natural world. manner, the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio foster a quiet but profound dialogue between empirical observation and human creativity. They serve as a constant reminder that science is not isolated from culture, but is instead intricately intertwined with our innate desire to discover meaning and appreciate the intrinsic beauty that surrounds us. Why do proportions related to the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio often evoke such a sense of pleasure within us? This question has intrigued thinkers and scholars for centuries. While no singular, definitive answer can fully explain this phenomenon, several compelling ideas suggest a profound connection between these patterns and the very nature of human perception. One prominent theory suggests that our brains are fundamentally wired to recognize and respond positively to patterns that strike a delicate balance between complexity and order. The golden ratio, with its distinctive relationship between parts and the whole, establishes a harmony that feels neither overwhelmingly chaotic nor excessively simplistic. This inherent balance may stimulate specific visual and cognitive processes in a manner that feels naturally comfortable and exceptionally satisfying. Psychologists have conducted extensive studies on how individuals perceive symmetry, proportion, and balance, consistently finding that these elements tend to evoke feelings of calmness and aesthetic pleasure. Images or objects that approximate the golden ratio may subconsciously align with neural pathways shaped by our cumulative experiences within the natural world, where such proportions frequently manifest, from the branching patterns of trees to the mesmerizing spirals of seashells. Another compelling theory connects this pleasurable sensation to evolutionary advantages. Recognizing balanced and harmonious patterns could have significantly aided our ancestors in identifying healthy environments or suitable mates, leading to an innate preference for these proportions. This evolutionary perspective suggests that what we perceive as beautiful is intricately linked to our very survival and overall well-being. However, it is essential to acknowledge that cultural factors also play a significant role. Exposure to art and architecture that skillfully utilizes these proportions reinforces their appeal, creating a powerful feedback loop between biological predispositions and learned appreciation. Ultimately, the feeling of pleasure that arises when we encounter proportions related to Fibonacci sequences may originate from a delicate blend of inherent biology, environmental influences, and cultural conditioning. An intricate dance between the world outside and the very inner workings of the mind. This inherent mystery in itself invites quiet wonder, a gentle reminder that the simplest of numbers can resonate profoundly within the depths of our being. Despite centuries of dedicated study, the precise role of the Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio in the natural world remains only partially understood. Scientists continue to explore the reasons behind the frequent appearance of these patterns in various phenomena. However, no definitive explanation fully accounts for their widespread presence or overall significance. A key question that persists is whether the Fibonacci sequence is a direct result of biological design or simply a convenient mathematical approximation that arises naturally from fundamental physical and chemical processes. For instance, spiral growth in plants or shells might reflect efficient packing or resource distribution, but why these specific numerical relationships consistently emerge remains unclear. Researchers are actively investigating the intricate mechanisms by which cells and tissues develop these patterns during growth. Genetic, biochemical, and mechanical factors all interact in complex ways, yet the precise triggers that initiate Fibonacci sequences remain largely elusive. Another area of significant uncertainty is the functional advantage of Fibonacci patterns. While numerous studies suggest that they improve efficiency, light capture, or structural stability, it is not always evident whether natural selection specifically favors these patterns or whether they are merely byproducts of other inherent constraints. Moreover, Fibonacci patterns are rarely perfectly precise in nature. They typically appear as approximations rather than exact matches. Understanding how and why such imperfect manifestations occur may provide valuable new insights into developmental biology and fundamental evolutionary processes. Scientists also grapple with the challenge of separating cultural fascination from scientific fact. The human tendency to recognize patterns may sometimes lead to an overemphasis on the presence of Fibonacci numbers in situations where none were intentionally formed. This ongoing inquiry invites us to embrace the inherent mystery, acknowledging that nature's secrets often unfold gradually, revealing themselves one layer at a time. The Fibonacci sequence represents a beautiful thread woven throughout the tapestry of life, but the full scope of its meaning remains to be fully discovered and understood. The question of whether Fibonacci patterns in nature are purely coincidental or possess functional significance remains a topic of vigorous debate among scientists. Some argue that these patterns emerge inevitably from the physical and chemical laws governing growth, while others perceive them as adaptive features honed by the relentless forces of evolution. On one side, proponents of the functional perspective suggest that Fibonacci sequences enhance efficiency in packing, light exposure, or overall structural integrity. For example, spiral leaf arrangements can effectively maximize sunlight capture, providing plants with a distinct survival advantage. Similarly, shells that grow following Fibonacci spirals may distribute mechanical stress more evenly, reducing the likelihood of damage. Conversely, others caution against attributing purpose where chance alone might suffice. They emphasize that natural systems often produce repeating patterns without any specific adaptive rationale. Physical constraints, such as limitations of space or energy minimization, can lead to regularity without deliberate design. This debate underscores the inherent challenge of interpreting complex biological patterns. Are we observing nature's deliberate blueprint or simply witnessing the outcome of universal mathematical principles shaping organic forms? The answer likely varies across different species and contexts. Adding to the complexity, the imperfect presence of Fibonacci numbers in nature suggests a blend of both chance and function. Variations from exact sequences indicate flexibility rather than strict adherence, allowing organisms to adapt and thrive in diverse environments. Ongoing research continues to probe these questions, combining insights from biology, physics, and mathematics. Understanding the balance between coincidence and function not only enriches our knowledge of natural design but also informs broader inquiries into complexity and order in the natural world. Whether coincidental or functional, the recurring appearance of Fibonacci patterns invites us to marvel at nature's intricate harmony, serving as a constant reminder that science often engages in a delicate dance with mystery as it strives for clarity and understanding. Measuring and defining what constitutes a perfect spiral in nature is a surprisingly complex endeavor. Unlike the idealized mathematical spirals meticulously drawn on paper, natural spirals are frequently irregular and influenced by countless environmental and genetic factors. This inherent variability poses significant challenges for scientists attempting to apply strict definitions. One primary challenge lies in the limitations of observation. Many spirals occur on microscopic scales, such as the delicate patterns on seashells or the precise arrangement of seeds in a sunflower. Accurately capturing their exact shape necessitates the use of precise imaging and measurement tools. Even with advanced technology, natural wear, varying growth conditions, and random mutations can alter their form. Another layer of complexity arises from the fact that nature rarely adheres perfectly to exact mathematical formulas. Spirals may approximate the golden ratio or the Fibonacci sequence, but seldom match them with absolute precision. This imperfect resemblance means that researchers must develop flexible criteria to recognize these patterns without demanding unrealistic precision. Furthermore, spirals exist within living organisms that are constantly growing and changing. Growth rates can vary based on nutrient availability, prevailing climate, or complex genetic expression, causing deviations from idealized models. These dynamic factors introduce irregularities that blur the distinction between what is considered perfect and what is inherently natural. The inherent difficulty in precisely defining the perfect spiral has practical implications, particularly in challenging how scientists test hypotheses regarding the function and origin of these patterns. Without clear and universally accepted definitions, debates may arise about whether observed spirals genuinely represent Fibonacci-based growth or are simply coincidental shapes. Yet this inherent imperfection also reveals something profoundly beautiful about life: nature's embrace of flexibility over rigid adherence to strict rules. Instead of finding perfect copies, we encounter spirals that adapt, evolve, and flourish within their respective environments. Understanding these challenges fosters a deeper appreciation for the delicate balance between mathematical order and biological variation, enriching our sense of wonder about the complexity of the living world. The Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio often appear alongside other fundamental constants in nature, hinting at deeper connections that are yet to be fully understood. While the golden ratio itself is a unique mathematical constant, researchers have long pondered whether it relates to constants that govern the physical universe. For example, the fine structure constant, which characterizes the strength of electromagnetic interactions, remains one of the most enigmatic numbers in physics. Although no direct link has been definitively confirmed, some scientists speculate that the mathematical harmony observed in Fibonacci patterns might resonate with these fundamental constants in subtle and yet-to-be-discovered ways. Similarly, the Fibonacci sequence manifests in models of atomic and molecular structures, where energy levels and bonding patterns sometimes reflect ratios close to the golden mean. These occurrences raise intriguing questions about whether the mathematics underpinning life's growth patterns might share common principles with the fundamental forces shaping matter itself. The mathematical elegance of Fibonacci spirals also mirrors the symmetries found in crystallography, the study of atomic arrangements in solid materials. Quasicrystals, which exhibit non-repeating but ordered patterns, display golden ratio relationships, suggesting a connection between biological patterns and fundamental physical structures. Despite these tantalizing hints, definitive scientific explanations remain elusive. The primary challenge lies in bridging the complexity of biological systems with the precision of physics constants. Biological systems are influenced by evolution and various environmental pressures, which can lead to the emergence of Fibonacci patterns without strict mathematical origins. Still, the presence of Fibonacci-related patterns across vastly different scales, from microscopic seashells to sprawling galactic spirals, invites a deeper search for universal principles that govern the structure and dynamics of the universe. Whether these connections are purely coincidental or signify a hidden order, they inspire ongoing curiosity and rigorous investigation. As science progresses, exploring potential links between Fibonacci numbers and fundamental natural constants may unlock new insights into the interconnected fabric of mathematics, biology, and physics. Nature often strikes a delicate balance between order and chaos, weaving patterns that feel both predictable and inherently mysterious. The Fibonacci sequence and the golden ratio beautifully capture this tension, representing a vital bridge between the precision of mathematical order and the organic unpredictability of living forms. Philosophers and scientists alike have long contemplated what it means for nature to exhibit both order and chaos simultaneously. Does the presence of patterns such as Fibonacci sequences signify a deeper cosmic harmony, or simply represent a byproduct of evolutionary processes adapting to environmental constraints? This question invites profound reflection on how we perceive beauty itself. The spirals and ratios that recur in plants, animals, and galaxies evoke a profound sense of balance and elegance. They suggest that amidst the apparent randomness of the universe, an underlying rhythm or structure exists. However, it is crucial to recognize that no natural form is perfectly symmetrical or rigidly mathematical. Imperfections and variations reveal the influence of chance, constant change, and inherent complexity. This dynamic interplay between order and chaos may be why humans find these patterns so exceptionally compelling. They resonate with our innate desire to discover meaning and establish connections within the world that surrounds us. The golden ratio is sometimes referred to as nature's secret language because it appears to encode a sense of harmony that transcends individual species or scales. At the same time, embracing nature's imperfections reminds us that beauty is not solely about flawless design, but also about the dynamic, evolving processes that drive life's diversity. The Fibonacci sequence serves as a quiet invitation to explore these enduring mysteries without necessarily expecting simple or easily obtainable answers. By science modern at these experiment mathemat these advanced this well research these can as study the pursuit these they as we they with in these the fib so there is music 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 thank you music 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 heat heat music 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 heat heat music 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 heat music heat music 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 heat heat music 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 heat heat music 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 heat heat music heat heat music 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 Musik, Music,